Hello all, it's Taylor. I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Treaty 1 territory. Brief visual description. I'm in my living room, beige walls. I am a 6'1", 40-year-old white transgender woman, straightened blonde hair swept over my left eye, with 3 piercings, as always, underneath my right eye, swept outward, pointing towards a cluster earring, and a couple other piercings too, with an orange shirt. And I want to keep that brief because to the point of this video, it is for a campaign started by ENFJ called Letters for Trans Kids. Exactly what it sounds like. Hashtag letters, the number 4, trans kids. This is in response to the legislation, the bans, the bills, everything against trans individuals as of late. And remember, this isn't just over the past couple months. This has been ongoing. To start, as a letter of encouragement or a message of encouragement to trans youth, first, please remember, this is not about you and it has never been about you. One thing I can easily say as an adult, someone who knew who they were as early as life got and never really knew how to come out, but I've always known who I've been from my earliest memories. As a trans youth, the one thing that you have that so many people don't is you know who you are. And you are getting focused on by people who preach about who they are not. You know who you are and are not understood by people who only know who they are not. Think about how special of a person you are for people and platforms and politicians and whatever to speak about you, for them to improve themselves. They're not speaking about you to bring you down. They speak about you to bring themselves up. That is how relevant you are. And I'm trying to say that as mindfully as I can because I understand how sad that is, that they're not using you in a representation of pride, of success, of courage. They're not using you for the values that you represent, but they are still using you for themselves, to better themselves. They wouldn't be who they are without you. Believe me, I understand. It is okay to be afraid of them. That's why this campaign is happening, because what they are doing is terrible, horrible, scary, but they are not afraid of you. They are afraid of their friends. They're afraid of their peers. They're afraid of their networks. They're afraid of their business partners. They're afraid of their teammates. They're afraid of everyone else if they chose to accept you. They are afraid of being judged for being supportive. They're afraid of being judged for being loving. They are afraid of being judged for being accepting. They are not afraid of you. They are afraid of themselves. They're afraid of their inability to cope with criticism. They're afraid of their inability to cope with judgment. They're afraid of their inability to cope with learning, of understanding, of accepting. They are afraid of all of the values you represent. You represent belonging. You represent acceptance. You represent curiosity. You represent understanding. You represent effort. You represent bravery. You represent love. These people are afraid of their inability to handle any of that. They are afraid of judgment. For so long in my life, that was myself too. I'm 40 years old. I came out abruptly on my 39th birthday in 2020. But for so long in my life, I was terrified of judgment. And not judgment just for myself. If I came out, I was afraid of standing up for the people who needed me to stand up for them. So long of my life, I could have and should have been standing up for you, and I failed at that. That's on me. I knew who I was from my earliest memories, and as I grew older and I became an adult, I had a fire burning in me. I had a fire burning in me knowing that it was my responsibility to speak up and do something, and speak up to the world around me, but I continued to hold myself quiet. And while that fire was burning inside me, I was burning myself with my silence. And when I came out in 2020, I came out like a fireball, and I made a promise to myself to fight and fight and fight and fight for you so that you don't have to go through the same life that I did. I let you down for far too long, and this is my promise to you that I am doing everything that I can to make sure that you can live your life as early as possible, as authentically as possible, and with as much freedom as you have the right to as possible. I let you down before and I'm not doing it again. And my promise to you is to work and work and work and never give up. I almost gave up on myself, and I promise I am not giving up on you. To everyone else watching this right now who is not a trans individual, here's my message to you, and I would like to start with talking to the left-handed individuals, to the left-handed people, 10% of the population, so 10% of the people watching this right now, all the left-handed people. I want every person who's left-handed right now to ask themselves how life is with your left-handedness. How is life? How is the opportunity to work or play or live left-handed? If you rewind a generation, if you rewind 2 generations, there's a good chance that you would be told to stop being left-handed. And I'm not saying it stopped, because there's many times and many places in the world today where still being left-handed is wrong. So to all the left-handed people, for people who ask me, why do I want to be trans? My question to you is, why do you want to be left-handed? The quick answer is it's built into you. So to all the left-handed people who are experiencing their left-handed life and are not experiencing any sort of discrimination about being left-handed, my question to you is, how is it? And to all the left-handed people watching this right now who still suffer discrimination for that, my question is, are you supporting trans rights? Because if you don't want to be discriminated for being left-handed, I'm sure you agree that you don't want trans individuals to be discriminated for being trans. Is that not correct? And for every left-handed person right now watching, wondering, what am I talking about? Because I have no clue what you're saying about discrimination in left-handed individuals. That is what acceptance feels like. If you don't have a hot clue what I'm talking about left-handed discrimination, grab a book, check it out, and if you're that ignorant to it, that means you have not suffered discrimination. That is what acceptance feels like. And let's talk about sports. To the owners, to the fans, to the spectators, to the athletes, to the anybodies who understand the value of a left-handed hockey or baseball player. How does that feel as an athlete, as a left-handed athlete? How does it feel having an opportunity and a value for being left-handed? And ask yourself, if this was a generation before or 2 generations earlier, would you have that same success or opportunity if you lived in a world where you were told that if you were left-handed, that you might have been clumsy, you might have been weak, you might have been filthy, you might have been evil. Cultures, faiths, countries tried to suppress being left-handed. And that is one of the most simple ways that I can compare what is happening, going back to the trans kids and to the observers right now too. This isn't about you being trans. This isn't about you being left-handed. This isn't about you being left-handed and trans. This is about individuals who feel it is their space to suppress you because you are not them. So this message goes to everybody who agrees with me that discrimination is wrong. Because this narrative, if you ask yourself, how does left-handed discrimination pair up with trans discrimination? It's because people feel that people who are not like them are wrong. That is colonialism. That is fascism. That is accelerationism. Shall I go on? The narrative is identical. If you find value to be outraged in discrimination of one sort, you have the value to find outrage in discrimination of others. Taking away the rights of an individual to have the choice of what to do with their body. Any human being who believes that an individual has a right to their bodily autonomy, any human being who finds value to preach my body, my choice, regardless of what your intent is with that phrase, has a responsibility to be outraged because that is not my body, my choice. And let's turn it up to 11 if we want to talk values. If you had the value to preach that Black Lives Matter after George Floyd's murder, let alone countless other black individuals whose list of names are so long that I don't think YouTube would even give me a chance to read them all off in an upload in the first place. If you had the values to preach Black Lives Matter, if you had the values to proclaim every child matters after the stories about the residential schools hit the mainstream, and recognize all of those unmarked graves, and recognizing the horrid events that happened, genocide, the values of what is happening between both of those are identical to what is happening to trans kids today. This is trans erasure. This is colonialism. This is fascism. This is accelerationism. Call it however you want, but it's built into the system, and the longer you try to ignore it, the more you give it space. What is happening right now is a war against trans individuals, and especially against trans youth, and this is not about fairness. This is not about safety. This is about erasure. And if you agree that Black Lives Matter, if you agree that every child matters, if you agree that anti-Asian racism does not have a belonging, if you agree that being left-handed is valid, if you agree that all other types of discrimination have no place in society, then you have the values to agree that trans lives matter. This is a war against trans kids. And if you don't agree with war but are more than happy that you stand with Ukraine, even though that you don't realize how long it was brewing until it showed up into the media, if you're happy to say that you stand with Ukraine and you stand against the war that is happening right now, then you have the values to say you stand with trans kids. You have the values. If you support any of those others and you support trans kids, you have the values. And if you're not supporting trans kids, you are being discriminatory, you are being selective, and you are amplifying the goals that are being pushed upon all of us by fascists and accelerationists. This is not about safety. This is not about fear. This is about erasure. And this is on you to fix. And if you have not acted yet, then this is your call to action now. If you have no idea about how to start, then forward this message because all the work has been done for you. Stand with trans kids. Stand for trans kids. Hashtag letters for trans kids. Write a letter. Put a message up. Post a video. Forward this like I said. Do your part. Make it clear that you support trans kids. Make it clear that you support trans kids and you are against trans erasure. If you had the values to campaign for every other type of discrimination, then you have the value to support the people who need you right now. Then you have the value to support the kids who are under attack. And you have the value to support the kids who need you right now. You have the value to support trans lives. Hashtag letters for trans kids. Please do your part. Please show your support.